Michael, the environment. In their letter, the bishops say most of all we need an honest account of how we must live in the future if generations yet to come are not to inherit a denuded and exhausted planet. So what is UKIP's proposal on the environment?
Well, on the environment, most people say we're quite anti-climate change, but we're not. I'm a believer that we don't do enough in the world. We talk at home about our own carbon emissions and footprint and everything, but we allow thousands of square miles of forests to be chopped down without actually putting in any investment, or we just stand there blindly and watch it. Yet at the same time we preach at home that we've got to do this, we've got to do that. But these forests going down are actually controlling the climate. They affect the climate more than anything that we could do in 10 years. Yet we would not put any resources into saving those. Now, I believe we need to clean up our act. And I think over the past 50 years, we've come a long way in terms of things that have come along, but they've often been unviable, like the wind turbines, for instance. We say that we've got to be energy efficient, but a wind turbine is at max 38% efficient because you can't control the wind, and the wind has to be the right. It's got to be the right speed. If it's too fast, the turbines can't work. And then you can't say, well, tomorrow I need some wind, it's going to come on. And also there's a backup. There always has to be, for every turbine, there's got to be a fossil fuel backup to each of these. So are we really moving forward? What we need to be invested in is tidal wave, nuclear. It needs to be a diverse thing. We can't have our eggs all in one basket when it comes to power. I think as we go through and the schools are teaching children to how to look after the planet and more aware about switching the lights on and the TV, yeah, that helps very little. But if we're only a small island, we're only doing a very small bit, and yet we've got people manufacturing, and you've got China building coal-fired power stations at a mad rate that would make our industrial revolution look like a mini bonfire compared to what's going on over there. So the change has got to be a worldwide effort. It isn't. Yes, we've got to do our bit, but I think we've got to stop the rainforest being cut down. First and foremost, we've got to get in there and start using our money and our influence in saving that first, while we just sit back and concentrate and look at other wonderful things here. It's got to be a worldwide thing. But I feel there's some hypocrisy where we're told to do one thing and yet we allow a rainforest to disappear.
Is it not really the case, though, that the reason we don't all change our lifestyle is actually that we know we're going to be dead by the time the problem's really set in? Are we really quite a selfish race?
I don't think we're a selfish race, but I think what's happened from when I grew up as a kid, materialistic things I never had, but time we had, and we had a family, and now we live in a different lifestyle where we don't have no time hardly to ourselves, but we have all the materialistic things, and so we've swapped it around. We've come full circle. How do we get back to that? It's got to be the question, because if we can go back, then this selfishness that you talk about, this thing like, well, it doesn't matter, I'm not going to be here in 100 years time or 50 years time. You're right, but that's only in this part of the world. How do we change that? It's a very complex one, because it hasn't taken that long to come back to this way. When you think it always has been about family and time, working hard and making sure that you do the right thing. I think we've lost our way, I think, as a race.
And now, really, as a nation that built its wealth, a great deal of its wealth, on resources from countries that are now poor, it's a bit hard for us to point the finger at them and tell them what they should be doing with the environment, isn't it?
Well, it is, when you've got big businesses exploiting them at the moment. I mean, this is like the last the last outpost for the big corporates, because what's going to happen eventually, the cheap labour is not going to be cheap labour there. They're going to have to start paying them wages, proper wages, and then what I would like to see, and I'm no super green whatever, but I think first and foremost, if you can become self-sustainable, and that means the houses that we build, so if they were built with solar panels or some kind of form of way of generating the power for your house, but the country on the whole, you've got to be more self-sufficient. And if we all did that around the world, and we only traded the goods that we couldn't make or whatever, but at the moment we're importing a lot of stuff that we could make and we used to make. So it's quite hypocritical to say, well, the carbon footprint we're saving here, but actually it's gone over there, and they're doing it 10 times more than what we did. So on one hand, you know, we've got to look at this properly and not just point the finger and demonise people, but again, it's got to be a global plan. It's got to be costed and sensible. And how we're going to bring those up to the same standards as that is going to take a long time, but that's going to take a big effort, but it's going to be a world effort.